Hey friends, welcome to the Blender Geometry Nodes Donut tutorial. This is going to be a multi-part series, and we're going to do things in this order. First, we're going to make the donut. Then we're going to make the sprinkles and the icing. Then we're going to do the materials for the sprinkles, the icing, and the donut. Then we're going to make the plate, and we're going to stack the donuts. Then lastly, I'm going to do one longer video on lighting and the like backdrop and the countertop and all the other parts of it. And then that last video will be optional. You can do, depending on what the teacher says. But for this semester, she made it where that last video is optional. So without further ado, here we go. All right, we have just the standard cube. We're just going to do the general file. And first and foremost, we're going to Control S to save. And then I'm just going to do on the desktop. And we'll do that. Save. Bada boom. There we go. And then I'm going to delete. Actually, I'm going to delete both. Both those. Keep the camera. Delete those. Shift A. Mesh monkey, because I want to show how different geometry nodes can make things. So we have a monkey. Geometry nodes are a modifier. So you cannot use geometry nodes unless you have something to do it on. So we're doing it on a monkey because I want to show the difference between a donut and a monkey. You can, with your monkey selected, you can click Add Modifier and do Geometry Nodes right here, or you can go up to the top and do Geometry Nodes right here, and you have the Geometry Nodes menu. Either way, you have to go up to this Geometry Nodes editor menu. So we'll just do that here at the top tab, and then you can click New right here, and we have a Geometry Nodes output. What are geometry nodes? They are a modifier, and they are basically like a graphing calculator in Blender. What we're going to do is I'm going to press in for the flyout menu, just like in every other Blender editing space, you can do in for the flyout menu. And I'm going to click on this group input, and I'm going to rename it. So you see we have group, node, tool, view, and then node wrangler. So I'm going to click on this node tab, and we're going to see name and label. I'm just going to label this Suzanne, so we remember that that's Suzanne. And then this group output, I'm going to label this what we see. So now we have Suzanne, and we have what we see, and we have this green wire. So if I disconnect it, all of a sudden Suzanne disappears because it's not going into the what we see. In order to see anything, whatever you have has to be plugged into what we see. So I'm going to Shift A real quick, and I'm going to type in sphere, UV sphere, and I'm going to Control right click, drag, remove Suzanne, and then I'm going to drag from the mesh dock out to the what we see. And now you see that we see a UV sphere. So it really depends on, it all depends on what is in the what we see node that determines what the viewport actually displays. So I'm going to delete this UV sphere, drag this over, and then for organization's sake, I'm going to select both of them, and I'm going to hit Control J to join in frame. And then over in the flyout menu, we see the label, so I'm going to say output. We're going to do a color, just to kind of show you the different options that we can do, and then label size all the way up to the max. We want big, so that if we're ever like this far out, we see what it is. Okay, I'm gonna collapse that flyout menu. Now we're gonna make our donut. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna Shift A to add. I'm going to type in search. I'm going to do pretty much everything by typing in search because it's quicker, especially when you know roughly what your node is called. You can just kind of type in and get all the different options. So we're going to do a curve circle. And a curve is the same as a curve in the 3D viewport, where you can do, it's a lot more flexible, or it's as flexible as a mesh is, in my opinion, but you can't do things like you can't set a material, or you can't, there are no vertices on a curve. There are only vertices on a mesh. There are points on the curve which can be played with, but no vertices. And so we're doing a curved circle just because it works better this way because of the set of nodes that we're going to be building out. Curved circle, in my opinion, works the best. And so we're going to Shift A. I'm going to search, and I'm going to say curve to mesh. I'm going to turn this curved circle into a mesh circle. Now, why are we doing that? Because we want this profile curve right there. That, if we Shift D to duplicate, will give us the basics of a torus. Now, the first curved circle, this top curved circle, is this guy, right? Just the standard radius. But then the second, the profile, gives us this. So the first one gives us the size of the donut. The second one gives us the deliciousness of the donut. Now I'm going to Shift A again. I'm going to hit search. And then I want to set curve, and this third option, set curve radius. And just like in the shading editor, if you put a node over a wire, it will turn the wire white, and that means you can collect it. And so here is something that is, it still kind of confuses me. I still haven't figured out why it does what it does, but set curve radius. I'm going to hit T to bring up the tools, and I'm going to do the annotate real quick. Set curve radius should, by all accounts, read what the object is, what the curve is, then set the radius using this value, and then output that. But I guess because of the curve to mesh and what we've got going on, what it's actually doing is it's reading this curved circle like that. It's setting the radius as a percentage, and then it's kicking that back out through the curve to mesh. I think that's what's happening, because that's what it seems like is happening. Because like if we say 1, that's actually 100%, and we're back to the 1 meter. But if, let's for now just, I guess, say 0.1, because we're going to be changing that anyways. So let's drag out from this. Oh, by the way, all these little dots here, I believe they're called docks or ports. So I'm going to call them docks, D-O-C-K-S. So this is the radius dock. So I'm going to bring that out. You see that little plus sign. If you drag out from a dock and just release, you'll get the add value or add menu. And so I'm going to type in math and then S-I-N-E for the sine wave function. And then I'm going to drag out from this value doc, and I'm going to type in random, and we'll see random value, and I'm going to click on that. And we have something truly horrific. It looks like a 3-dimensional sound wave, but that is because of a couple of things. That is because, one, our random value is from 0 to 1. So remember, this was a percentage. So this is from 0% to 100% of the size. So first, let's go like 0.8 to do like 80%. And also, I would say for the min, anywhere between 0.6 and 0.8 works. And for the max, anywhere between 1.0 and 1.1 works. So just keep those values as you want. And so with that, how do we fix, because this doesn't look like a good donut. This is not donut material yet. And that's because we haven't done, we need to edit the values of all of these different things. So the first value we're going to edit is the radius of the main curve and the radius of the profile curve to make it more donut size. So I'm actually going to zoom way in. And I'm going to say radius. I want it to be 3.5 inches divided by 2, because don't forget the radius is a half of a circle. And then that made it a 3.25 inch or 3.5 inch donut. And then over here on this curved circle, I'm going to say like 2 inches divided by 2. And now we have a much more attractive looking donut. I'm actually going to say maybe 2.5 inches divided by 2. Yeah, that looks fluffier and more delicious. And now you were thinking, okay, but it still doesn't look properly lumpy. It looks too frequent, right? I mean, that's because of this resolution. Because as we're going around, there are 32 different points on this curve going around. Well, if we turn it to 16, cut it in half, now all of a sudden it looks a lot better. And in fact, I'm actually going to change this minimum value to be 0.7 to give us a little bit more fluctuation and interest. And then you can just change the seed to kind of whatever looks good to you. I think that'll look good. So now we have our mesh donut. Why do we need it to be mesh? Because just like in the 3D viewport, you can only really modify a mesh. You can't really modify a curve that well. Things like, for instance, subdivision surface only works if it's a mesh. Now look at that lumpy, beautiful donut. So now we have a smooth, lumpy donut through this combo of, through this combination. There are a few more nodes that I would like to put here before we move on and in the video. And that is going to be the Shift A search transform geometry. And the reason for that is always just in case. Always just in case. And then Shift A search set mat for set material and put that on there so we can give it a material later on. And that is how you make a donut. So we're going to go one quick little recap. First, we do a curved circle to give us the main circle of the donut. And we're going to put that into a set curve radius to start reading the different values that we give it. Then that goes into a curve to mesh so we can make it a smooth donut. And then for the profile curve, we're just going to do another curved circle, same amount of resolution, but we're going to change the radius. And don't forget, Blender can do the math. Blender can do the math, so do mathematical functions if you want. If you want a donut that is 3 inches, because here's the thing, okay? So my donut right now, from end to end, is 3.5 inches. I know that because the radius is half of that. So from here to here is the radius. So from here to here is what I put in to this curve circle node. So I put 3.5 divided by 2, and that would do the math for me to give me a 3.5 inch wide donut. And then for the set curve radius, I connected a math node with the sine function. And then attached to that sine function, I did a random value node to finish it off because the set curve radius started reading the radius as a percentage. And so I did 80% to 100% of our profile curve radius. And then I added a subsurf modifier, as we all know and love, to make it a smooth, lumpy donut. Then I added a transform geometry just in case, you never know. And then a set material so we can add materials later on. So basically, this group makes the donut and makes a lumpy, imperfect donut. Then this guy makes a smooth donut. Then this allows you to materialize the donut. And there, my friends, is where I'm going to end the first video. And we have now made a donut.